Hey, I'm Ira. Today I'm going to draw a cover of the most famous album art starring a brick wall. Okay, not that one. So, the second most famous album art starring a brick wall. Well, not that one either. Maybe the third. Yeah, third most famous album art starring a brick wall. Okay, today's cover art is inspired by an album that I spent a lot of my youth staring at and just wishing to God that my legs were that skinny. Of course, I'm talking about the Ramones' self-titled debut from 1976. Let's talk about the boys for a second. On the cover, from left to right, you've got Johnny Ramone, the guitar player, Tommy Ramone, the drummer, Joey Ramone, the guy who did the singing, and Dee Dee Ramone, guy with the bass, and who also played it. I'm going to start things off with a basic sketch to get the body language down. Now, in the mid 1970s, apparently the coolest thing you could do as a band is get yourself photographed standing in front of a brick wall. Ideally, that wall would be covered in old promotional band materials from bands that you do not even share a genre with, but plain brick walls were totally fine as well. The Ramones were an up-and-coming act at the time, and when they were ready to release their album, they headed down to the Lower East Side of New York City to find Roberta Bailey. And she'd taken this pretty sweet photo of a band called the Heartbreakers. They have Hershey syrup all over their dress shirts, which is very cool, very punk. She had the Ramones stand against a pretty decent brick wall. Not my favorite, but pretty good. With just a touch of graffiti there in the corner. And she snapped a picture. That photo sucked. So Roberta was like, okay, look, boys, you don't have charisma like Joan Jett. You can't just stand against a crappy brick wall and smile. Think about it. You got leather jackets on. Let's do the whole biker vibe thing, like Marlon Brando in The Wild Ones. And with that motivational speech, Roberta snapped the iconic Ramones album cover photo. Now, of course, the Ramones would go on to find much more success, and they moved on past the brick wall to stand in much more grimier locations. But that's a story for another time. So you can see this first sketch in blue covers the basic body language of the Ramones characters. You've got the swagger of Johnny Ramone, the elevating stance of Tommy. Joey's leaning in a strange way, trying to hide his awkward height, and Dee Dee's just there on the right. He's the bass player. So he's probably not even sure what this photo is for. Notice I left out Johnny's iconic middle finger in the pocket there. I want this to be a safe for work video. So the point of this cover art series is to do a twist on these iconic images. So let's make the Ramones more of a cartoon superband. A little like the Gorillas. The Gorillas always have the best outfits. Johnny is going to be able to keep his leather jacket, but let's give him some bionic legs. Why do anime teams always have a big dude with bionic legs? Tommy's going to get much more of an overhaul. Everybody loves steampunk goggles, so let's go with the steampunk. Matrix, trench coat, and demon feet. For our beloved Joey, let's do a little mashup of some of rock and roll's iconic artists, Johnny Depp and Alice Cooper from Hollywood Vampires. That's a look. Dee Dee is going to get that angled face and vacant eyes of 2D from the Gorillaz. And how about a varsity jacket? I can never pull off the varsity jacket, but I think Dee Dee can do it. He's got broad shoulders. And let's balance it out with some track shorts. He's a real athlete. Now that I've sketched over this drawing a bunch of times, I'm really comfortable with the line work, so inking is going to be just a breeze. I'm feeling so good about it. I'm going to give Johnny a headband. We'll do this leather jacket up. Now, biopunk legs are always accompanied by those like puffy pants that pilots in the 1920s would wear. Bio leg time, let's do giant screws on the ankle. Okay, I can tell I'm going to hate these bionic legs. I don't know what I was thinking. We'll get back to that later. Let's just keep going. Move on to Tommy. Okay, these steampunk goggles are too obvious. Let's go with something a little cooler. How about those goggles Seth Green was wearing in Can Hardly Wait? Those are cool. Let's do that. A little mod necktie, matrix trench coat, clawed hands and gloves, demon feet, and you gotta look. Layers and accessories are the Hollywood vampire thing. So the vest, I'm into that. I'm going to give Joey cooler hair. He deserves cooler hair than he actually had. Now, strangely enough, the part of this photo that always drew my eye was Joey's hand. I probably spent the most time staring at this picture and staring specifically at Joey's hand. Maybe it's just that blown out pale whiteness that's drawing my eye. But there's just something about the way the hand hangs. Like when I Google famous hand art, I feel like Joey's limp hand should appear in the results. Actually, hold on a second. If we zoom in on Michelangelo's creation of Adam, that hand is basically the same. I just hope I'm doing Joey's biblical hand justice in this image. I don't think I did. Oh well. Onto those skinny legs and those perfectly ripped jeans. Too nervous to do the shoes right now. The way his feet are positioned just stresses me out. So we're going to work on something easier, which is Dee Dee's face. There's that 2D demon look. Love it. Bags under the eyes. I can relate. Elf ear. Great bangs. And now the varsity jacket. Let's put a little tiger patch on here. One-eyed tiger, because we're in some alternate dimension. And perfectly fitted track shorts. Great thighs, calves, casual shoes situation. Let's go over to Joey's shoes. I think I can do it. You ready, guys? I pulled it off. Okay, so let's thicken our line art, make it pop a bit more. Get some shadows. Now let's address the real problem here, the bionic legs. They gotta go. Now, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So let's just give Johnny back his legs. They're like the easy version of Joey's legs, so no problem. Now, before I get into color, I'm going to lay down the base values of the characters, moving through the categories of jacket, undershirts, hair, and pants. The Ramones definitely had a uniform. And yeah, I totally broke that system. I've messed up their outfits and their faces. But I'm going to keep the shading and coloring kind of true to the original album art. Let's do some grimy textures and highlights. I love blobby highlights. I like my characters to look like they're made of shiny rubber, apparently. I want that black and white vibe, but I don't want to work strictly in black and white. So you notice my shadows are a bit of a deep red. And I'm going to drop a pale blue in the background here. And you know what that color really reminds me of? Another famous album cover. So the Ramones are no longer in a 1970s alley behind CBGB's. They're in a pool in the 1990s with a naked baby. But they do need that gritty, grimy, authentic aesthetic. Let's put some texture, digital texture on top of the Ramones here. I went a little crazy with the highlights. I'm going to take out some of those. I don't want this to look like someone spilled acid on the photo. And there you have it. Ramones from Another World. That's all for this first episode of Cover Art. I'm going to do a bunch more of these, so please subscribe to follow along. If you'd like me to teach you how to draw, you can go to Skillshare and sign up for my long-form, slightly more serious classes on comics and cartooning, narrative art, and illustration. You can support my work on Patreon, where you'll get sneak peeks at what I'm up to and process posts. But for now, I'm Ira Marks, and this is Cover Art. See you next time.